Hello there, Internet, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Art Tips. I'm your host, Ando, and today we're going to be doing another critique video. So, the artist we're going to be looking at today is Altairsky, who graciously sent over a couple of images that we're going to be looking at today. So, here's the first one I wanted to talk about. And it is called Aka Hojaku, the Crimson Ghost. So that's a pretty cool title, and I believe that this is for a webcomic. So kind of like a conceptual piece. So that's really interesting. So let's take a look at composition here. First off, I want to say this is really great use of lighting. I absolutely love this really slight highlight across the tree and right here. That is some nice work. It really adds the perspective that it's like shady under the tree where this character is sitting. So that's some pretty awesome use of atmosphere. Another good use of atmosphere here is back here, just with the trees. If you can kind of see, it's like this type of mist coming up between each layer of trees. So that's some really nice, they're just like a really nice detail that can really make it look like it's, I don't know, like misty around where these trees are, almost like it's early morning or it's very rainy, and you can assume that it's very rainy because of all these clouds here, but you got this nice highlight coming through, which is adding all of these just really subtle like lighting hints across the back of the tree. So that's some awesome use of lighting. Let's talk about just like the way that the picture is laid out. It's very like right down the middle. This is where your eye is, just right down the middle. But it's not distracting, because sometimes people do like a very center image and it's just kind of like, okay, this gotta look right in the middle and it's almost boring. But this has really great use of its, like, it's bringing your eye right towards the center, especially with like the kind of angle that this tree branch is. And it's not so symmetrical that it's boring. Your character has the arm up like this. That's a nice kind of like change, instead of like having both the arms down at the side or both of them like that. So you have like the one leg up here, so it's got a nice movement of where the limbs kind of overlap. You also have this really nice like wavy S-curve that you have with the scarf. It's kind of leading off into the side. So that's really nice. One thing that is a bit distracting about this scarf though is the bright highlights here. You don't really get very many bright highlights in here. You have them, but they're not quite as bright. So this kind of like yellow can really capture your eye. It's not quite as like drastic, like, oh yeah, my eye immediately goes here, because my immediate, like when I first look at this image, my eyes immediately go here, which is where they're supposed to be, because you got like this really vibrant glowing red to the eyes. So that's really nice. Just a way of kind of having your viewer just kind of beeline right towards the face. But it's just, I felt like my eyes kept getting kind of dragged over here because it was a little too bright. So maybe find a way to just add a little bit more highlight on the rest of the scarf, or just tone down the highlight here. But other than that, this is a really nice use of your scarf. So way to go with that. Another thing that I really like about this is just the lighting on these toes. These are great, just like the lighting on the feet and right here. That's some solid lighting. And just pretty much anywhere where you get these kind of like vibrant highlights are just a really nice pop. It keeps the image from looking muddy, which is something that I always strive to learn how to do. So props to you, this is great. These clouds, same thing with like this nice outline of the highlight, is super nice. So as far as anatomy goes, It's kind of hard for me to be like, oh, well, this is not exactly how this kind of creature would look, because this is a very original looking character. But just something that I noticed is with kind of like these backwards legs that you get with like animals and stuff, I feel like this is almost a bit too straight for that. Maybe if you kind of bring this part of the leg in just like a tad, that might look a little bit more natural for that kind of a leg. Other than that, this is kind of this kind of leg up here where it's going off of the tree branch. It seems a bit high, but I think that's because the shadow of the branch is so dark here that it almost looks like the branch is going here, and so it's like this gap between the legs. But I believe that the branch is supposed to be going this way, so I feel like maybe if you kind of toned back the shadow here, just like I don't know, made it follow the limbs just a little bit more instead of like this oval kind of shape of where the shadow on the tree branch is, that might make the leg look a little less like it's kind of rising above the tree branch from like the leg socket here. And I believe that the other arm is going down here, so that's fine. That's not distracting at all. So it's nice, and it's not like the center of attention because you have this arm right here and it does like this really nice overlap thing like I said before, so that's really nice. And like I'm not sure exactly how the shoulder attaches to the body. I assume that it's kind of like this is a little ball bearing joint. I think this is like a robot character, so that's fine. But if it was like an actual like creature limb, it would kind of make more sense for it to be a bit wider, but if that's the character model, then that is completely fine. Another thing that kind of ends up catching my eye a bit is this really, really bright white area down here. I don't entirely see a reason why your eye should kind of get stuck here, so maybe kind of toning that white down just like a shade will kind of keep my eye from just kind of going down to this area for no apparent reason, or even just adding like another highlight along the wing here. And this is a very nice watermark, like a really unique watermark too. It's got like the dinosaur head on it. That's cool. I have a friend who does dinosaur like heads. Not so much with the feathers, but that just reminds me of her and it makes me smile. Anyways, with the tree branch, it's kind of weird how the tree branch kind of goes out, because with this kind of tree, it's a little, I don't know, it's like the perspective of where the tree is, you'd assume that the tree branch would get smaller instead of wider at the end. Because like with perspective, if you have like a board or something that is the same width all the way across, it makes sense that it would retreat the further back you go and then get wider the further forward you are. But I feel like it would almost stay the same width or get smaller towards the end anyways, because it's a tree branch. Because the way that this tree branch is going out, it almost looks like you're standing where, like the viewer is standing where the tree like trunk is, and then that this should be going off into nowhere, but it's the opposite. So maybe kind of pulling the tree limb in a bit would kind of fix that, but it's honestly not anything that I noticed until I just kind of stared at it. Also, this is kind of an interesting that the tree gets so wide at the bottom, so maybe it's a specific type of tree that does that, or it's like we're looking at like it leans over or something. Because I feel like this kind of part of the trunk, like the tree follows the same pattern. It gets really wide at the bottom, but I'm sure some trees look like that. I don't know exactly what type of tree it is. There aren't any like leaves or anything. It it's almost like a winter scene or something, because you can see like pine trees in the back with foliage, but you don't really see any other kinds of trees. There's no leaves on this one, so I assume it's fall or winter. It looks very cold, so it's a really nice use of your cool colors. Is pretty much the only warmth you're getting is the eyes and the glow coming off of it, like here and here. Like even this red in the scarf is a very cold red. So that's a really great way of catching your audience's eye, is just by making the warmth just like the focal point, and then everything else is cool. So like I said before, great use of atmosphere, great use of lighting. And I think that's all I'm going to say about this one, so keep up the good work. Alright, so this is the second piece I wanted to talk about, is Cover Suzu Mega Metabot Special. So I thought this one was really nice. It's super cute. Let's pull this up. So the first thing I wanted to say about this one, oh wait, there we go. First thing I wanted to say about this one is I really like this text. This text bubble up here, it really reminds me of like 90s style of like anime posters. It brings to mind like some Hayao Miyazaki posters that I saw a while back, and I thought they were really cute. So I love this kind of bubbly text. That's great. That's all I'm going to say about the text. And I also really like the border here. It kind of gives like a really soft like children's book or children's movie kind of vibe to it. So let's talk about the use of color. This is a really nice pastel color. I love it. I like the way that the trees and the sky are kind of almost in the same same pastel spectrum, but it's almost like watercolor, but more like, I don't know, maybe more on the gouache side. So that's really nice. I like the way that it kind of abstracts in the back with the tree line. You have a knack for tree lines, so good job with that. And, these grass pieces right up at the front. I love how they look. It's like it doesn't have any shading to it. They're just simple brush lines, but they're fantastic. I love them. It's just something about those shapes are just so appealing. And also, this fence. I love the green work in the fence. Nice poppy, whitish, like bright highlight among the other, the wood grain colors. It is very appealing. And also, there's a rooster. Love that. Or is it a chicken? It's probably a chicken. I just love the design. Super nice. I love the highlights and the rendering of the feathers. Just like not even an important part of the composition. It's in the background, and that kind of attention to detail is amazing. So let's talk about before I get out of the background area, I'm going to talk about this little cottage in the back. The roof is kind of at an odd angle for the rest of the building. It's too straight, so I feel like maybe it would recede back at an angle a bit more, just because of the way that the front of the house is looking. It doesn't make sense that the roof would just kind of go off at an angle unless this was brought more forward. So just kind of tilting that roof would be a little bit better, and also it wouldn't contrast with the way that the scarf is so much. It would let you have this kind of nice like fluttery effect of the scarf in the back. And also I noticed that this is the same scarf that this character was wearing, so that's some interesting stuff. I want to know what happens. I'm going to probably go read your webcomic after I'm done with this. This looks fun. Okay, so let's talk about the main composition in the forefront. So this is a really nice solid use of foreshortening in the legs. That's great. It definitely looks like the legs are just flying back. The arm is a little less like expertly done in this angle, because it just kind of loses its shape down here compared to like these legs are so anatomically correct, just flying backwards, that when you get to kind of this arm, it's a little bit more lumpy and doesn't have quite the amount of like definition as you did with just other parts of the image. So like I assume that you would kind of see a bit of the hand part kind of poking out. Okay, so like when you get into this arm, I feel like the anatomy of the hand is a little bit more off than this one. So I feel like you would end up seeing a bit of the hand down here or in this direction instead of it just kind of being the forearm. Like even if it's just like a couple of fingers or just like the back of the palm, you would end up seeing a little bit, and that would make it look a lot more natural, because most of the time when people are kind of having their arm like flying backwards, it's not so even with the camera line. You would end up seeing it go down a bit, kind of like you have with the legs. You don't see the legs just kind of like a foot and then this is supposed to be the rest of the leg. So it would kind of stand to reason that you'd see a little bit more of the arm kind of bending down there. And then the way that this arm is, it's kind of an interesting angle that it's at. I'm not sure if it would have that much of a bend to it, considering that this character is supposed to be dragging this other character. So I feel like that would end up being a bit more straight. So a bit more bend on this one and a bit straighter on this one. And also I feel like you'd end up seeing a bit of the hand, because you can see like a couple fingers here, but it almost looks like this character has like a bracelet on, like another armband on. So like if this character is getting dragged, you would kind of see a bit of the hand, like unless of course this arm part kind of goes over the hand like that, where you probably wouldn't be able to see over like this kind of area where it gets like a diagonal part. But I'm not entirely sure what the character model is. But if that's the case, then you would end up not seeing as much of the hand, but you would still see like a little bit, especially if this character is getting dragged like by the wrist. One thing I wanted to say about the hand here is they're a little bit rubbery with the fingers. Like these knuckles are really solid. That's great use of like bone structure in the hands. You can kind of see where like the ligaments go back, but these fingers don't really have like knuckles to them, or not knuckles, joints to them. You don't see like how each piece kind of connects. They're a little bit more just kind of rubbery, like I said before, especially like with this one where you fly back and that kind of thing. You don't have to have them be like super square or anything, but just a little bit more definition of where the finger goes. Like if you have like a pinky, you'd still see a little bit. That was kind of a bad location to do that. Okay, so you'd still kind of see like a little bit of like a bend here, like that's where your finger bends. So it would kind of go in a little and then out again. But I also feel like the fingers are a little too short too. Like these two are fine, but these two need to kind of go out just a tad so that they are, like, they look in proportion with these fingers. And the thumb's fine, except you might want to just maybe have the thumb go out a little bit more, just because like if you look at your thumb, it kind of bends back naturally a bit more than the rest of your fingers if you were to just kind of stretch your hand out. So like the thumb ends up doing that. But as it is, it's fine looking. It's just kind of like the angle of the hand, or just the position where it's not, it's a little bit more relaxed than if the hand was just kind of stretched as far as the fingers can go from each other. So it has like a nice movement to it. The way that the character is, like, you can definitely tell that this is the torso, and then these are like the the pelvis going back in space, that's fine. It's just the lumpiness of the pant legs are a little off, just with the way that the fabric would kind of move, because you kind of have this weird lump here, which is, I assume, supposed to be just the bagginess of the pants, because it shouldn't be the knee. The knee would be this one down here, and that being like the crease of where the knee is, that's fine. I just feel like the way that the fabric is moving is a little unnatural. It almost looks like there's less of like the fabric is moving back like with the wind, and more that it's moving forward, or like they're wet or something. Because technically, like if the character is running forward quickly, it would be pulled tight over the leg here, and then it would get kind of baggier in the back. So that's just a little nitpick with just the way that the fabric of the pants are. Like if you kind of just smooth that out a bit, then this leg would be rock solid, and this one would maybe just like bringing it in a tad on either side would end up making this one look pretty correct as well. Yeah. With the foot, this is a kind of a short foot, but I'm not entirely sure what the exact style of the character design is supposed to be up with the feet, because sometimes characters have shorter feet. Like this character has pretty short feet, so this is probably fine depending on the character model. So yeah, these are great. I really like the movement to this piece. This is fantastic. And I'm gonna end. This is a great like movement piece with like the way that the arm is going back, because just the way that the like hand bends at the wrist, that is great. It really drives the point of the character just kind of moving so fast. You got like the arm stretched back, you got the vest kind of flying around, you got the necklace, all of that. It's fantastic. You got the hair kind of flying backwards, and definitely adds to the piece. I love that. This expression is adorable. Love that. Just the little just happiness in the eyes. And I noticed that the eyes are nice and blue and shiny, so that's a nice contrast with the other piece, because this is like a happier piece, so the blue is more calming, it's more happy. I love that. One thing I don't quite understand about this character's expression is where they're looking. It's kind of like, I understand like if you're looking like, oh, they're grabbing my hand, but it would kind of end up being a bit more down this direction that they should be looking, instead of just at the forearm. So that's just a little bit odd. Or I couldn't tell if like this character was looking at like where they're holding the hand, or just the character in general, in which case well, that's terrifying. They would end up kind of looking more straightforward. Versus if they were looking down at the hand, it would end up being a bit more centered in the face. So either way, there's like this nice little like, oh goodness, surprised mouth, so that's nice. And just like the nose is a little off center. I don't know, I feel like it would end up being a little bit more towards the middle, because it would end up as like the line of the face. But if that's a stylistic thing, that's fine. And just all in all, final thoughts on this piece. Really, really nice use of just like quaint, not quaint, whimsy. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very whimsical. I love the design. It just looks so happy. It's like this person's going on an adventure with a little robot bug, and it's so cute. And I love these little antennas. There's this nice little soft shading right here. Makes me so happy. And just like the way that the wings are kind of splayed out. It's like a dragonfly almost. Makes me want to go on an adventure too. This is great. So I think that's all I'm going to say on this piece as well. So these are really solid. So I had a lot of fun looking over your pieces. This was really great. I wish you good luck in your webcomic, and I'm excited to read it. In the meantime, if anyone would like to be reviewed, please send your information to the Weekly Art Tips group on DeviantArt, and just like send a note and I will add you to the list, and I'll be sure to send you a link when the video is posted. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.